everybody. I am Drew Duncan. Do not forget that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. Additionally, you can find me on YouTube and Patreon by looking for Drew Duncan Radio. And do not forget that I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Simply take a device to play Drew Duncan on Spreaker, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Apple Podcasts. I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. Where the world has gone Joe Burrow bananas. And every year we see this, right? Whether it's the NBA draft, the NFL draft, there's always that one player that there's a mass amount of hype surrounding for whatever reason. I mean, you know, the Tim Tebows of the world, the Joe Burrows of the world, the Cardiel, you know, the Joneses of the world, the whoever. It's going to be out there. There's always that one kid, you know, that shooting star just waiting to be in the NFL. And now we've even gone so far as to say that Joe Burrow needs to pull an Elway, he needs to pull a Bo Jackson, he needs to pull an Eli Manning and say, nah, bro. I'm not going to play for the Cincinnati Bengals. And, of course, it's an even bigger deal because Joe Burrow is from Ohio. And, of course, it's even a bigger deal because Joe Burrow never got real playing time at Ohio State. And he goes to LSU, and he becomes a successful quarterback. And so to a lot of people, that really only further signifies, hey, look, man, you got to really do what's best for you, bro. You can't be out here doing what everybody wants you to do, just going number one in the draft. The Bengals have basically, according to reports, signaled that they are going after Joe Burrow in the draft. And what really bothers me is how a lot of people, first of all, are trying to tell this guy what to do with his life. In talking about John Elway, it was John Elway who said that he couldn't believe, basically, that Terry Bradshaw was so outspoken over the managing of his career. And I have said umpteen times that I believe that athletes should be in control of their own careers, where they play, who they play for, why they play for that franchise, what they do love about that organization, that town, that community, whatever the case is. They should have control over their own destiny. Free agency has made the NFL great. It has kind of made the NFL bad in some ways, but for the most part, I believe in an athlete taking complete control over their own destiny. And so, no, I don't agree with Colin Cowherd getting on national television and going, here's what Joe Burrow needs to do. Because I'm going to tell you something, if Joe Burrow does what Colin says that he should do and it doesn't work out, he's going to go, hey, man, shouldn't have done that. That's why. I mean, who gives a damn about everybody else's opinion about what you should be doing with your own life and career? How many of us don't like people telling us what to do with our life, especially people who have never been there? I mean, Cowherd was not even thinking about taking a job at Fox Sports. Didn't he say on his own show that he was considering taking a job, what was it, for Discovery Channel? National Geographic, one of the two. Didn't he say that he was about to go do that instead? And that he had told his agent to go out and get him yeses for what he wants? So why in the hell, then, are we trying to dictate what Joe Burrow is going to do? The other thing about this is there's so many people that are out there that are saying, oh, Bo Jackson was the only one that had a real reason to not go to Tampa. And for those who don't know, Bo Jackson took a flight out to go visit with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So as a result, he wasn't able to play baseball. And many people believe that he was purposely lied to so that way he couldn't play baseball, basically preserving his body and not being able to, you know, the MLB would look at him and go, oh, this guy's a troublemaker. We don't want him, so we're not going to draft him. Of course, we all know the result of that, but the point of what I'm saying is this. He wasn't the only one. You know, John Elway didn't want to go to the Colts because he didn't trust the owner. John Elway felt he was being lied to. And John Elway felt like, hey, they're going to move the franchise, right? Because there were rumors that they were going to move the team. And they were, kind of shifty, shady, and how they were presenting it to him when John Elway and his dad would ask the questions, and they just didn't trust him. And, of course, what happened? They ended up moving from Baltimore to Indianapolis. So John Elway and his dad were correct in their presumption that the organization had no clue what they were doing and that they didn't want to be there because they didn't want to put themselves in a bad situation where they would never be successful. So no, John Elway didn't just not go to play for the Colts because I don't feel like it. He wasn't being spoiled. He really didn't feel like they were going in the right direction, and he was correct. As far as Eli Manning goes, look, there's a lot of people out there that really believe that Eli was pressured into not playing for the Chargers by his dad. They don't want both kids in the AFC, et cetera, et cetera. Well, maybe somewhere there was a game plan all along for them to end up maybe playing in a Super Bowl against each other with the family. I mean, I don't know. What I do know is this, is that Eli Manning had his own career. He ended up having his own path, and he is very separate from his brother in a lot of ways. Some good, some bad, whatever the case is, however you want to look at it. The bottom line is that Eli Manning certainly had his own career in the NFL. And so the point of what I'm telling you is that if Joe Burrow does decide to pull an Elway, a Jackson, a Manning, we know for a fact that at least two of those guys had legitimate reasons why they didn't want to play for those organizations. And I'm going to tell you something, and because there's rumors out there that Joe is considering doing this. Even if he says I'm not going to do it, he's going to be leverage. He says he's got leverage. He's going to be leverage when all is said and done. Because the Cincinnati Bengals will draft him and then figure out a trade. That's what ended up happening with the Colts and John Elway. That's what ended up happening with Eli Manning. That's what ended up happening, and the bottom line is that if a guy doesn't want to play for you, you're wasting a draft pick to a lot of people, but now you've gained leverage. I know there are a lot of people that are seeking this draft pick. And because they want this draft pick, especially look at Carolina right now, right? Supposedly, they're going to get rid of Cam Newton. That's just one instance. The Raiders are supposedly all in on Tom Brady in free agency and ready to offer him $50 million. You can't snag Tom Brady. What's the next best option? Well, let's go ahead and start fresh again with a brand new quarterback, Joe Burrow. See, now it becomes, all right, what do you want for him? Oh, he's not going to play for us. That's fine. That's great. We'll sign him. We'll sit him. But in the meantime, he's leverage. Period. Now, I don't know what kind of leverage Joe Burrow thinks he has, because maybe the Bengals don't waste the draft. But whatever Joe Burrow is talking about, I got to tell you, I don't know, man. That's big talk for a guy who hasn't played a single snap at the professional level and really ultimately had one season. It was a phenomenal season. But his receivers were so much better than people really gave that team credit for. And they had a running game. They had a very good defense. This was a complete football team that Joe Burrow was on. I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. I'm not saying that maybe he won't have success. I'm 50-50 on Burrow. Usually I'm one way or the other, right? Very normally, anybody who listens to me knows I'm usually very one way or the other with players and what I think is going to be the turnout. With Joe Burrow, I'm 50-50 on it. Because he does have athletic ability. He's very competitive, obviously. The guys like playing for him. He's a leader. He does have a pretty good arm. He's willing to throw it up and let his receivers go and make a play. He's smart with the football. He's got great pocket presence. But he does kind of have that gunslinger thing. And he does, make some throws that make you go, wow, really, bro? You got bailed out. which is typical of any quarterback. I mean, receivers do what they're supposed to do and go get passes, right? So I'm 50-50 on Burrow. I don't really know yet. What I do know is this, is that if the Bengals go ahead and draft him, they're going to have leverage now for other draft picks for probably this season and the next season. And then they're going to have leverage financially, because until there's something signed on the dotted line, we don't know what he's going to be worth. So I don't know. I don't know what Burrow's thinking. I don't think it's a spurn. I don't think it's a burn. I think it's a player that wants to do what's best for his career and go to the place that he thinks best fits him schematically and what he wants to do, which is fine. I've said over and over and over, and I will always say that players should be able to dictate their own careers. Even when Antonio Brown made the choice to go from Pittsburgh to Oakland, it's his career, man. It's his life. Okay, we are nobody to tell other people what to do. It shouldn't be done. Guys, I am Drew Duncan. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan Radio. You can find me on YouTube and Patreon by looking for Drew Duncan Radio. And do not forget that I am wherever you are listening to podcasts. And as always, don't you dare touch that dial.